Hey and welcome to my YouTube channel, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to make this cool cloth twist animation in Blender. I'm using Blender 4.3 on a MacBook Pro with M1 chip and 16 RAM. So first start with set up the blend file. So before we start this tutorial, I want to say that here in the corner, you can see all my shortcuts if you get lost or just want to know what I do. So let's get off the default stuff by pressing A to select all and then pressing X to delete it. So if you want to use this cosmetic tube, you can now download it for free on my Gumroad. So I will show you how to download the 3D model. So click on the link down below and then click 0 as the price and download that. And now I will show you how to import the model into your blend file. So go to the file and then click on append and then find your downloaded file and then click on object and then click on the cosmetic tube model and then click on append to import it to the blend file. So now let's set up the cosmetic tube. So first press 1 on your numpad to go to the front view. And if you don't have any numpad, don't worry. I will now show you how to enable numpad for laptops. So press Command plus the coma key to go to the Blender preferences, and then click on Input, and then check the Emulate numpad. And then press R plus X plus 180 to rotate it 180 degrees on the X-axis, and now let's create the cloth mesh. So press Shift A to add a cube, and then press S plus 0.4 to scale the cube down. And then press G plus Z plus 0.58 to move it on the Z-axis. And then press G plus X plus 0.34 to move it on the X-axis, and then press Ctrl A to apply the scale. And then press the Tab button to go to Edit mode. And this is the Tab button right over the caps lock. And then click here on the face selector. And then select these 3 faces and then press Ctrl plus I to invert the selection, and now press X to delete and click on faces. And then click on the edge selector. And then select these 2 edges, and then go to the front view. And then press G plus X plus -8 to move it to the left on the X-axis. And then press A to select all. And then press S plus Z plus 0.7 to scale it down on the Z-axis. And now select these 2 edges, and then press Ctrl plus B to make a bevel, and don't worry, I will show you the bevel settings later on. So here on the bevel settings, change the width type to 0.3, and then leave the segments on 3. And then press Command plus R plus 20 to add some edge loops, and then do the same thing on the other side. And then select these 2 edges, and then press 7 on your numpad to go to the top view, and then press S plus Y plus 1.35 to scale it up. And then press Command plus R plus 4 to add some edge loops in the middle too. And then hit the Tab button to go back to the object mode. And then press F2 to rename it, and for Mac users like me, press Fn plus F2, and then rename it to Cloth 1. So let's add some modifiers. So first, add a subdivision surface modifier, and then leave the viewport at 1, and then add a solidify modifier, and then change the thickness to -0.03, and like you see, we make the solidify on the outside and not on the inside, and then drag the solidify over the subdivision, and then last, right-click, and then click on Shade Smooth. And now let's do the cloth settings. So click on the cloth and then hit the spacebar to play the animation. And like you see, our cloth object is falling and we don't want that. But we want the ends to hold up the cloth object, like in the result video. So to pin the sides, let's go to the edit mode and then select this edge and then press Option to select the whole edge, and then do the same for the other side. And then go to the data selection and then add a vertex group, and then double click on the name to rename it and rename it to pins. And then last click on Assign, and then hit the Tab button to go back to the object mode. So back to the physics selection, so scroll down to the Shape tab, and then unfold the shape. And then beside the pin group, select your group we just created. And now, when we play the animation, you can see we have pinned the sides / the ends. And now we want to duplicate the cloth and make one on the other side too. But before we do that, we don't want the cloth to fall to the ground, and we want it to affect with the tube as a collision. So to do that, unfold the field weights and then change the gravity to 0. And when you play the animation again, you will see nothing happens, but don't panic. And now let's set up the collision settings. So select your object and click on collisions, and then leave the settings as they are. So now let's animate our tube. So on frame 1, press K to insert a keyframe and then click on the rotation. And this orange thing is a keyframe. And then go to frame 30 and then press R plus X plus 360 to rotate 360 degrees on the X-axis, and then press K to insert a keyframe and click on rotation. You can also press N to show the sidebar, and then change the X rotation to 540, and then press I over the rotation to insert a keyframe. And now, when we go back to frame 1 and play the animation, this is what we have. And like you see, the cloth object is not smooth at all. So to fix that, go to the modifiers and then add another subdivision surface modifier and then change the viewport to 2. And now when we hit the spacebar to play the animation again, you will see our cloth object is smooth and nice. So let's make a duplicate of the cloth. So press Shift plus D to duplicate, and then press G plus Z plus minus 1.16 to move it down, and then press R plus Z plus 180 to rotate it 180 degrees on the Z axis, and last press G plus X plus minus 0.68 to move it on the X axis. And then select both the cloth objects, and then press G plus Z plus minus 0.1 to move it down, and then rename it to cloth 2, and then change the end frame to 50. And now when we play the animation, you can see you just duplicate the cloth and they are all smooth and nice. Great job. And now let's set up the last cloth settings. So select the cloth one and then scroll down to the cache tab, and then unfold the cache, and then change the end to 50, and then click on the bake button, and now wait for the baking to bake. And for you who are wondering how long the baking time took me, the baking time was 13 seconds for the cloth 1. And then do the same for the cloth 2. And for you who are wondering how long the baking time took me, the baking time was 13 seconds as well for the cloth 2. So press Z to switch between the different shades and select the render. And you will now see that your render view is very dark and grey. So I'm rendering in cycles, but if you want to render in EV, you can skip this part. So now let's set up the render settings. So first change the render engine to cycles. And if you have a GPU, go and change to that for a better rendering. And then change the noise threshold to 0.1 so you can render faster. And I like to render my videos with 300 as max samples, but you can go higher or lower if you want, depending on your computer. And unfold film, and then check the transparent. So the HDRI we're going to add later on doesn't show in the viewport, but still affects our scene. And also, for this animation, I turn on the motion blur for some cooler effects, but that is optional. And then unfold the color management, and I like to leave the view transform on AGX and then change the look to high contrast. So now let's set up the HDRI. So go to World, and then click on this yellow dot and select the environment texture, and like you see, the viewport turn into a pink and purplish color. But we don't want that, so to fix that, click on Open and choose your HDRI. And in the description, I link the HDRI I use, so go and download that. And then change the strength to 0.7. So we lower the effect of the HDRI. And like you see now, we have set up the HDRI image. So let's move to the next part. And now let's set up the cloth material. So select cloth 1, and then click on New, and then rename it to cloth. And now select cloth 2 first, and then press Shift plus cloth 1, and make sure the left one is orange selected and not red selected, and then press Ctrl plus L to link the materials. And now select cloth 2 and make sure they also have the cloth material like the cloth 1. So now select cloth 1 and then change the color to something you like. I changed mine to some apricot color, but you should change to that color that suits your product or scene best. And then unfold the transmission, and then change the transmission to 0.897, and then change the roughness to 0.6. And this is my reminder to save the blend file so we don't lose anything. So let's set up the camera. So press Shift A to add a camera, and then press G plus Y plus minus 23 to move the camera back. And then press 0 on your numpad to go to the camera view. And then go to the camera settings and change the focal length to 85mm. And then unfold the viewport display and change the Passepartout to 0.8, so we have little bit of the viewport showing. And then unfold the composition guides and check the thirds and center for some guidelines, and make the camera focus. So press Shift A to add an empty and select the plane axis, and then press 3 on your numpad to go to the side view, and then press G plus Y plus minus 0.4 to move the empty to the left, and then go back to the camera view, and then go to Constraints, and add a shrink wrap, and then change the target to the tube, and then rename it to camera focus. And then go to camera settings again, and unfold the depth of field, and then check the depth of field, and then change the focus on object to the camera focus, and then change the f-stop to 0.4. And now let's make the background. And then press Shift A to add a plane, and then press R plus X plus 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the X-axis, and then press G plus Y plus 10 to move the plane back, and then tab into the edit mode, and then press S+10 to scale it up, and then tab back to object mode, and then rename it to backdrop. So now let's set up the backdrop material. So click on New, and then rename it to backdrop, and then change the color to something that you like or matches your scene. So in my case, it will be some lilac color. So now let's set up the lightings. And for you who want to see the light setup for this YouTube tutorial and for all my other tutorials, go and be a YouTube member for only $2.72 per month. And if you already try to render the video, you will now see the cloth doesn't look so good. So to fix that, go to the modifiers and then change the first subdivision surface render to 1 or change both to a 2. That depends on how good your computer is. And here is my result. Thank you for watching. And if you do a video with the help of this tutorial, go and upload that on Instagram and tag me at malin.mpeg4. And feel free to subscribe for more tutorials and videos.